Hey everyone, good afternoon. So I'm back with another video. This one is inspired from a gift I received for Mother's Day. My friend and roommate got me a really cool gift. It was this tea set, and one of the things that it had in it for decoration were roses that were both red and black. And I thought it was really beautiful. And honestly, a lot of people don't give black roses because they have a lot of negative connotations to them, but they also symbolize renewal, the shedding of old things and the bringing in of new things. So that's something that I really thought was nice. But we'll get into that a little bit more as the video goes on. First of all, black roses are not natural. You're not going to find them in a garden or a bush, but you can find them in other places, like if you look online and in specialty shops and so forth. They're created by dyeing them, by spraying them, by dipping them, or burning them. Usually, roses used to have a dark red or maroon tint to them, or purple hues. And so the different meanings behind the roses, there are several. Like I was saying before, they could be related to death or the end of something and the beginning of something new. It really depends largely on the context and who's giving and who's receiving the roses. One of the more obvious ones is death and mourning. The main meaning of the black rose is death and grief. And they're often used to express sorrow or condolences for the loss of a loved one. So, you probably have seen them around funerals, because they could also be a symbol of farewell or the end of a relationship. Sometimes people even choose to get black or red roses as symbols of loved ones that are no longer in their lives, so if they've passed on and so forth. They've also been used for the end of a romance. Black roses have been utilized to represent the end of a romantic relationship, though people don't usually go out and give roses as a way of their breaking up with someone. But they do it sometimes. In literature, black roses sometimes represent obsessive or unrequited love, and in this way, they're the opposite, basically, of the red rose. And then the change and transformation. Recently is when they started to utilize the symbol for transformation. Many people see death as basically the ultimate transformation. So like the shedding of the old and the bringing in of the new. This process has been applied to the black rose's underlining meaning. They've been used to indicate the beginning of one phase and therefore the end of another. They may also represent hope and vanity, as well as pride and arrogance. And they could be a sign of, unfortunately, of manipulation and sometimes even seduction, especially in literature and poetry. So in other words, black roses represent often an unhealthy or a one-sided love. Sometimes they are known to represent power and strength because they're associated with tougher periods of life. These roses may also represent strength. They may be used to represent the strength that's necessary basically to get through anything hard, like a grieving period or something of that nature, a breakup. However, they have also been utilized to represent anarchy and rebellion. They may be used as a way to challenge social norms and the status quo. Black roses may not be natural, but they have a fairly long history. They've been around for quite some time. They've been around since the ancient Greece and Roman period, when they symbolized power and dominance. And at that time, they were also associated with Persephone, the goddess of the underworld. I don't know if I've done videos on Persephone, but I know I've done a lot of videos on the underworld, so maybe that'll be an upcoming video. They have also been utilized for fallen warriors and heroes too. And in the Victorian era, they became popular in literature and in art. They were part of the language of flowers, which people used to communicate hidden messages. So in that context, they represent death and farewell. And then during the medieval times, they were used by several rebellious groups, including the Cathars, the Hussites, and the Jacobites. And in some cases, they were used to signify loyalty to these groups, or even just loyalty in general. In modern times, they're often used to convey a sense of danger and, as you know, to represent death. And as we were saying before, black roses are not natural, but they're created through different types of artificial means. There are several different types of ways to create them. For instance, dyeing them, which basically you take, I remember doing this as a child. I didn't make them into black roses, but you take a white or a light colored rose and then you soak them in a black dye. You know, like you put the stem in it, and the rose absorbs the color through the stem, and then over time it results in a black rose. Also, sometimes people will spray them for a faster color. They use, again, a white or a light color rose to spray the paint directly on them. And the result is basically a thin layer of color over the rose, though it's not permanently black. There's also the dipping method, which is similar to spraying. However, instead of spraying the rose with paint, the creator basically takes the rose or the bunch of roses or however and then just dips them in. And then the last one that I'm aware of is burning them. As with most plants, roses basically they turn black when they're burned. Therefore, some roses can be created by burning a darker color rose, like a red rose or a purple one, a red or a purple rose, or it has purple undertones. So those are different ways that you can change the color of them. And they're not common flowers, as they're more suitable for, different type. They're not as common as some of the other flowers. You're not going to find them everywhere, but they are pretty. I like them. I think they're beautiful. Definitely, though, you should be careful when you consider the meaning of the roses before sending them to someone. So don't just send them to anyone. Like, don't go out and on a new date and give them a bunch of black flowers, even though I personally might like them. But I'm a different type of person. I like everything. So the most common are used for funerals or memorial services. They're the most appropriate for them as a way to pay your respects to someone who has passed on. Also, they're good for Halloween or Gothic events like parties and so forth. They're, because they are often associated with the darker things in life like despair and death and so forth. So, kind of the goth thing goes with it. And sometimes people even use them for anniversaries or for birthdays. They can be definitely a memorable gift for someone who's into them, who has like an alternate lifestyle. But, it's not always the most appropriate gift to give someone, but they are beautiful nonetheless. All right, you guys, there's a little bit about black roses. Take care. Peace.